Surah Al-Furqan, I came with the intention of doing a very different passage today. But I have decided that I will do a different one, inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 30, that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will rise on the day of judgment. And he will say to Allah, O Allah, وقال الرسول, يا ربي, O Allah, إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. O my Lord, my people have indeed received this Qur'an, but they neglected it, they abandoned it. A different translation is, O Allah, inna qawm ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'an mahjura. Some people from amongst my community abandoned the Qur'an, even though they received the Qur'an. Now, my brothers and sisters, let me ask you a question. What would you like on the day of judgment? Would you like Rasulullah to do shifa'ah for you? Or would you like Rasulullah to lodge a complaint against you? What would you like? Shifa'ah, of course. You would want Allah's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to intercede on our behalf. What if he complains against us? What would be our fate? Allah would give Rasulullah permission to intercede, but Allah would also give him permission to complain. And the complaint would be, Ya Rabbi, O my Lord, Inna qawm ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. Some people from my community abandoned this Qur'an. Abandoned it. The Arabic word mahjura here is neglected it. Comes from hijrah, leaving, abandoning. It's not just neglecting and abandoning. It is about not having a good relationship with the Qur'an. Let me give you examples of how we abandon the Qur'an. We read the Qur'an without understanding. That's abandoning the Qur'an. Because you're not really paying much attention to what Allah is intending and what Allah is ordering and telling you and me. That's one way of abandoning, neglecting the Qur'an. Listening to the Imam reciting, they have beautiful voices, crying over the melody of the Imam rather than the meaning contained in the Qur'an. You cry because the melody is beautiful. You could be listening to somebody else, maybe singing in orchestra. How do you make the distinction? You make the distinction by understanding the words of Allah. The melody of the Qur'an is a very unique melody and it has impact on your heart, of course. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. When Allah's name is rehearsed in front of them, including Qur'an is recited in front of them, their heart tremble. Their iman increases and they have reliance on Allah. But how would it be? How would our iman increase? How would our heart tremble? How would we make a connection with Allah without understanding the words of Allah? How? My brothers and sisters, I ask you to ask yourself this question. The third way of abandoning the Qur'an is to misuse the Qur'an. Qur'an came down as a guidance. It did not come down for you to give ta'weez. For the ta'weez wallahs, please, don't argue with me about this. Rasulullah never ever in his life gave a ta'weez. Never. So don't make up stories about Rasulullah giving one. Don't look for a justification. It makes no logical sense to even suggest Qur'an could be used for ta'weez. Why would Allah reveal the final revelation upon humanity had this Qur'an been revealed upon the mountains? The whole mountain would have broken itself into asunder. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. You would have seen the mountains trembling into pieces out of the fear of Allah. The weight of the Qur'an is so heavy. And you and I are misusing the Qur'an sometimes by putting ta'weez with the words of Allah. Don't abuse the words of Allah. Qur'an did not come down for you to dip in the water and drink it. Qur'an did not come down for Imam to recite and blow his breath on you. Qur'an did not come down for any of those purposes. Qur'an came down as a guidance for you, guidance for humanity. Qur'an came down to heal your heart from the depth of darkness, from the melodies of your heart, to giving the light of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Qur'an came down to change the course of humanity. Remember, don't misuse the Qur'an. Qur'an did not come down for people to do mambo jumbo and voodoo services with the Qur'an. No, Qur'an did not come down for that purposes. I see people doing all sorts of weird things in the name of the Qur'an. Allah's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, Ya Rabbi, inna qawm ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. These people, Ya Allah, these are the ones who neglected the Qur'an, abandoned the Qur'an, abused the Qur'an, forsook the Qur'an completely. Another way of abandoning the Qur'an is to have the Qur'an and not implement it in your life. Not to practice it in your life. Or partially practice it. Pick and choose. Pick and choose. Cherry pick. This suits me, I'm going to use the Qur'an. That doesn't suit me, I'm not going to use the Qur'an. Why? Have you not seen those people who do that? أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ? Are you going to take some part of the Qur'an and reject the other parts because it doesn't suit you? Allah says, don't take riba. You say, yeah, it suits me now, I'm going to take riba. Allah says, govern your country with the Quranic injunctions. Quran doesn't talk about politics. Which planet do you live in? Quran doesn't talk about economics. Somebody said to me the other day, what do you mean Quran doesn't talk about economics? Of course it does. Quran gives clear stipulation about how we should be governing every aspect of our life. There is no cherry picking in the Quran. Quran is a complete goal of life, beginning to the end, all of it. You take it all, not half, not partial. You can't be embracing part of the Quran and rejecting other part of the Quran. For those who do that, they will be miserably failed and failures in this dunya and in the hereafter. Another way of neglecting the Quran is not to share the Quran with people around you. It's also to neglect the Quran. You have this beautiful book, beautiful guidance of Allah. You keep it in your house, you don't tell your neighbors about it. How many of you have shared the copy of the Quran with your neighbor? Very few. I'll give you an example of how I regret. Once in my life, I used to live in Wood Green. In Wood Green, next door to my house, lived a neighbor. Her name is Patricia. She was an elderly lady. She one day came and she saw me. She goes to me, Ajmal, stop. Yes. I saw you on BBC yesterday. I said, yes. She said to me, I saw you talking about Islam. I said, of course I do. She goes, I've got a question for you. So she started quoting from the Quran. I said to Patricia, which Quran do you have? She goes to me, I've got the Penguin translation of the Quran. I said, oh my God, this is the worst translation ever. I'll give you a better one. She goes, okay, give me a better one. And then I said to her, I'll talk to you. My brothers and sisters, I forgot to give her the copy of the Quran. 3 months later, my wife told me, Patricia had a heart attack and died. Till this day, I regret not sharing the Quran with her. What if Patricia rises on the Day of Judgment and says, Ya Allah, Ajmal, my neighbor, preached to the world Quran. I asked him the copy of the Quran. He promised me, but he forgot. What will be my fate on the Day of Judgment? I still ask Allah to forgive me on a daily basis for neglecting my neighbor and not sharing the copy of the Quran. Another way of neglecting the Quran is not sharing the Quran and the goodness of the Quran with the people of the world. And finally, the way to neglect the Quran is to say Quran did not come to solve the problem of humanity. Not presenting the Quran as a solution, not just by words, not by slogan, but by living it in your life, by exemplifying it. My brothers and sisters, imagine on the Day of Judgment, Rasulullah says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ, and Rasulullah says, Ya Rabbi, O my Lord, إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. Some people amongst my people abandon the Quran. What will you say? What will I say? What will we say when Rasulullah makes that complaint? I have no idea what we'll say. Except one thing, Ya Rabb, forgive us, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, enable us so that we don't become those people who abandon the Quran. Ya Allah, make Quran our daily companion. Ya Allah, enable us to understand, follow, and implement Quran in our life fully. That's all we can do. And make dua and keep on doing it. This is the month of Quran. Make Quran your companion, your friend, and transform your life based on the Quran. May Allah enable all of us to stay on the right path. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.